I'm going to divorce a sick, poor person and live for myself and my new family from now on. Eric said what he wanted to say and stood up satisfied. But I didn't understand what he meant, so I asked him again. To that, Eric pushed a crumpled divorce paper at me. I was furious, but strangely calm. The only good thing about you is that you're understanding. However, I suppressed my anger and wrote the divorce papers for him, and that's what Eric said. I'm not strangely sad about the divorce. I'm finally free from Eric. But that's separate from the anger. I can't forgive this betrayal, and on the day of my discharge from the hospital, I was going to do something. My name is Jenny Hansen. I married Eric, who is 4 years younger, and this year marks our 30th anniversary. We got married young, Eric at 20 and I at 24. In what's called a shotgun marriage because I got pregnant with our eldest son, Aaron. It's not so unusual now, but back then, getting pregnant before marriage wasn't common. And we were mocked by friends for our lack of planning. But I loved Aaron very much and did not regret marrying. Then we were blessed with our daughter Stacy, and we worked hard for our children. Although we were poor. However, I wasn't very physically robust to begin with. I hurt my back during my second pregnancy and suffered from severe back pain. I also had chronic asthma, so I wasn't able to work properly. It ended up being mostly Eric earning. But I occasionally worked part-time and managed our family of 4 with the money I had saved from my single days. But Eric constantly complained about our situation. We're poor because you can't work. I didn't talk back when he said that, I just endured it. Eric's salary, my part-time income, and my savings. I bore a bigger burden, but I thought it was wrong to say that because we were family. So I apologized, I'm sorry. I'm trying to save on groceries. We're poor because of you, so get your parents to do something about it. True to his words, I had borrowed money from my parents. I felt pathetic, but my parents lent me money without asking any questions. But Eric, knowing this, never once thanked my parents. Eric is working hard outside, so you mustn't forget to appreciate that. Honestly, I was angry at times. But I protected my family in my own way with my mother's words and love. However, Eric was not a deeply affectionate father to the children. Eric became a father around 20. His peers were out playing every day. He seemed to have no sense of responsibility because he had a young family at home and played as if he were single. He often went out drinking with friends after work. Meanwhile, I bathed our 2 young children with my aching back. Eric complained about our tight finances. But he didn't help with saving and was the one spending money. Of course, I had complaints. But if enduring myself meant happiness and harmony for my family, there was no need to stir up trouble. That's how we managed as a couple. As we aged, his playing around settled down somewhat, but then other problems arose. Eric was serious at work but not very good at it, so his career advancement was slower than others. As the children grew and needed school fees, Eric's salary alone couldn't afford their education. Mom, you should really tell Dad off more. He's not advancing in his job. He's always out drinking, and he's just too selfish. Even Stacy, who was a middle school student at the time, would say such things to Eric. However, I just laughed at those words. But, your dad goes to work seriously every day, without ever taking a dishonest day off. Sure, I wish he would get promoted, but that can't be helped. I can't say anything more than that. I made sure to remind our children not to forget their respect for their father. But middle schoolers are no longer little children. As they grew, they started to see the reality rather than the excuses I made. No matter how much I tried to cover for Eric, the children had already lost their patience with their father. However, he himself was unaware of this. I work for Aaron and Stacy, So make sure you study hard to show your gratitude. At home, Eric would drink in the evening and boast about being the breadwinner, bragging to Aaron and Stacy about how hard he works at his job. Moreover, he did not limit this to home, he also boasted at his company. He would tell his bosses and colleagues, unsolicited, that my children and wife respect me, and I work for my children's school fees. One day, out of the blue, Eric said this to me. This Sunday, 5 people from work are coming over to our house. Apparently, he had invited his boss, colleagues, and juniors to show off our happy family life. I was surprised by the sudden news. If 5 guests were coming, I needed to prepare a substantial amount of food. Of course, cleaning was necessary, but I also had to prepare guest dishes. It's this Sunday, he said so easily, but today was already Thursday night. And he should know that I have to drive Aaron to his club activities on Saturday. This is so sudden. And on Saturday, I blurted out. But Eric frowned at my words and said, "It's Aaron's transport, right?" I know. That's why I chose Sunday, as if he had no remorse. Does he think the house will clean itself and food will appear without effort? I was astonished, but since it was already promised, there was nothing I could do. All right, I understand. I'll manage somehow. From that day, I prepared late into the night to be ready for Sunday's hospitality. On Sunday, just before noon, 5 of Eric's colleagues arrived at our home as he had said. 2 were bosses, and 3 were colleagues and juniors from the same team. The youngest was a woman 7 years younger than Eric. Her name was Kelly Jones. Because she was the youngest, she offered to help me. "Mrs. Hanson, may I use these plates?" "You don't need to call me Mrs. Hanson." "Yes, feel free to use the plates." Perhaps because Eric and the bosses were discussing work, I had various conversations with her. "Kelly, are you married?" "No. Actually, I just broke up with my boyfriend." We talked about personal things, and she really liked the pickles I made for the meal. Asking for the recipe. "Mr. Hanson always brags about how delicious your cooking is." Kelly's words made me smile thinly. Surely Eric, who utters those words, is praising me, intoxicated with his role as a praising husband. However, Kelly, unaware of such things, took his words at face value and praised me. "You have a wonderful husband, and Jenny, you are as lovely as I imagined. You two are the couple I admire." That's certainly not the case. However, I couldn't just shatter her dream. Without such illusions, marriage wouldn't be possible. Yes. Marriage is a good thing. Hopefully, you'll find a wonderful lover again someday. When you do, please introduce him to me. Of course. We talked about many things just on that day. Kelly told me I was like a sister to her. I was happy as if I had gained a sister. Since we exchanged contact information that day, Kelly and I have often met up. Of course, Eric knows about it. But I didn't become friends with her just to please Eric. Yet, as if he believes he is the center of the world. Eric told me, "Make sure to say good things about me, huh?" Despite our age difference, Kelly and I became close friends. She even introduced me to a real boyfriend, and she cried in front of me when they broke up. Though we are nearly a generation apart, Kelly and I get along very well. And I truly hope she finds happiness. However, she has not been lucky in finding a good match, and she has turned 43. I am now 54 myself. Both of our children have graduated from college and left home. What has my life been about? I worked for the kids, the money got eaten up. And now I have to sacrifice myself to support an old woman who can't work. Eric started complaining like this on every occasion. While he used to say it was all for the kids. It seems he cannot truly appreciate the real happiness of the children having flown the nest. Since he was only putting on a show for himself. He probably feels dissatisfied because there is no visible return. I think he is truly pitiable. Even now, he puts on a good face outside, but at home, it's a different story. Does he think he's so great just because he works, or does he just want to be praised? I often say, I'm grateful, and it's not a lie, but I'm fed up with Eric's ingratitude. Honestly, now that the children are independent, I wonder if I have to stay with this man. But I can't discuss it with my elderly parents. And for Kelly, who wants to get married, it would seem like a luxurious problem. In the end, I kept these feelings to myself without telling anyone. It was a day as summer approached. My back pain worsened, and I finally decided to undergo surgery. The air quality had also deteriorated recently, worsening my asthma. Every cough sent sharp pains through my back. The back pain and asthma were dragging each other down, making daily life unbearable. So I finally opted for surgery. Well then, I'm off. On the day of my hospitalization, Eric didn't even see me off as I left the house with a big bag. I went straight to the hospital and completed the admission process alone. Later, the children came to visit. Aaron and Stacy listened carefully to the doctor's explanation about the surgery and the prognosis. I am truly grateful for that. The surgery, which required general anesthesia, took 3 hours but was successfully completed. I would need to stay in the hospital for about a month, during which Aaron and Stacy offered to take care of me during my hospitalization. Although it was a burden on the children, hospital life allowed me to rest both my body and mind quite comfortably compared to home. Yet, I still worry about Eric, despite him being such a husband. I wonder if your father is all right? He hasn't come at all. Could you check on him at home? I said this to Stacy, but she looked at me as if she were exasperated. Mom, you're too kind. Just leave him be. Still, he's not a child. He's managing fine. And if Dad gets really hungry and can't do anything about it, he'll surely come to the hospital, huh? Stacy said this with a laugh. Indeed, he's someone who can't do anything by himself. I could easily imagine what Stacy was describing. That's true. I responded to her words. About half a month into my hospital stay, while I was eating lunch, someone visited my hospital room. I put down my chopsticks at the sound of a knock. It was Eric. Oh, Dad. You came.
Yeah.
Had some business. Eric said this, then chuckled through his nose as he looked at me on the bed. He pulled up a pipe chair with an air of importance and sat down heavily, then said to me, "You look just like a sick person." What? Oh, right. I am indeed sick. I laughed, thinking it was a joke, but Eric continued. Not working and sick, you're always going to be my burden, aren't you? What? That's why I've decided. I'm going to divorce a sick, poor person and live for myself and my new family from now on. Eric said what he wanted to say and stood up satisfied. Divorce? A new family? What do you mean? I was more confused than shocked, so I asked Eric again. She's pregnant. So, I've decided to marry her. That's why, please sign the divorce papers. Then, Eric took out a folded divorce paper from his back pocket, unfolded it, and handed it to me. Seeing the crumpled paper, I finally caught up with what was happening. But my irritation with Eric, who never considered my situation or feelings, continued to grow. All this time, I had endured without saying anything, even wanting a divorce. But to be discarded like this, he truly was a devil in disguise. I hadn't realized Eric was cheating, and how foolish I was to have worried about him. I understand. With a single word, I signed the divorce papers. I was furious but strangely calm. The only good thing about you is your understanding. But as I suppressed my anger and filled out the divorce papers, That's what Eric said. After he left, tears started to flow from my eyes. But this was not out of sadness. It was the first time I had tears coming out of anger. A few days later, as usual, Stacy and Aaron came to see me at the hospital. And I told them about Eric's actions. Unbelievable. That old jerk. I agree with the divorce, but that's really the lowest of the low. Such a person isn't even human. It's embarrassing that our father is such a man. Both were more furious than I was, especially Stacy, who, like me previously, cried tears of anger. Anyway, Mom, don't worry about anything. Stacy and I are here for you. Thank you. Aaron said calmly, comforting me. But strangely, I wasn't sad. I was finally free from Eric. But the anger was different. I could never forgive this betrayal. After all, Eric only visited the hospital that one time. I faced my discharge day. After leaving the hospital, I would stay at Stacy's apartment, where she lives alone. I needed to go back home to pick up some stuff, so Aaron would drive me. Everything was settled, and just as Aaron was about to pick up my luggage, my phone rang. Oh, wait. It's a call. I was in an area where I could take calls, so I answered right there. The caller ID showed it was Kelly. Right, I needed to tell Kelly about the divorce. Thinking this, I answered the call. Hello? Jenny? I thought you might be getting discharged about now, so I called. Oh, that's right. I was discharged safely today. Thanks for calling. Kelly responded with a cheerful voice. I should be the one thanking you. Thank you for divorcing Eric. What? I was stunned by what I heard from Kelly on the other end. Why did she already know about it? And why was she thanking me for it? Had Kelly ever called my husband Eric before? All the questions flooding my mind were answered by Kelly's next words. From now on, leave Eric to me. The three of us, with the baby coming, will be happy. My hand holding the smartphone trembled. Aaron looked at me curiously, but I couldn't hide my anger. Even so, this is a public place. Without letting my anger explode, I muttered softly. Kelly. So you were the affair partner. An affair? Eric told me that his marriage with you had already failed. And that I'm practically his real wife. I don't want to hear those excuses, let's all sit down and talk about this once. Why do we need that when it's over between you two? Anyway, I have to get back to work. Eric asked me to do something, and I'll contact you later. Kelly then hung up the phone. Aaron, who had overheard my phone call, stood there in disbelief. Of course, Aaron knew Kelly well since she had visited our house and even played with him. He must be shocked too. I can't forgive those two. That's just too low. Aaron, please take me to your father's workplace. Upon hearing this, Aaron looked surprised, but after understanding why, he nodded strongly. Right after being discharged, I had Aaron accompany me straight to Eric's place of work. When we parked the car in the visitors' parking at Eric's workplace, Aaron supported me. We entered the building and headed to the reception. I would like to speak with the president. The receptionist looked a bit troubled by my abrupt request and asked, Do you have an appointment? No, this is an unexpected visit. I'm sorry, but without an appointment. But, it's important. The receptionist apologized, but I persisted. Perhaps overhearing our conversation, I felt the gaze of employees glancing over at us. Undoubtedly, we must seem like troublesome visitors who came without an appointment and demanded too much. In the midst of this, Eric noticed that Aaron and I were at his workplace. He got up hurriedly and approached us. What are you doing here? Hello, we came to talk to the president. To the president. Eric was clearly flustered. probably thinking I was about to expose his affair with his subordinate, Kelly. Calm down, let's go outside and talk. Saying this, he urged us to step outside. It's none of your business, Dad. Stay out of it. It is my business. Aaron resisted Eric's attempt to stop us, but Eric grabbed my arm, trying to forcefully remove us. Stop it. Mom just had surgery. Aaron managed to calm Eric down, and Eric reluctantly loosened his grip on my arm. Seeing our situation, Kelly watched and laughed triumphantly. Angrily, I shook off Eric's hand and said, "So, I can't see the president?" "If that's the case, understood. We will no longer associate with your company. All transactions are to be stopped. Please relay that to the president." What? Eric stood there with his mouth agape. The receptionist looked worried and flustered. Seeing her discomfort, Aaron spoke up. "Oh, I apologize for not mentioning earlier. But my mother is the CEO of Jenny Corporation. All the system-related matters here are handled by her company, so she should be able to explain." Hearing this, the receptionist hurriedly said, "Oh. I will check if the president has time. Please wait a moment." I didn't intend to make her feel uneasy, but I couldn't help it. More importantly, Eric stood next to me, his face pale with worry. "What are you talking about?" "The president." Yes, surprised now? I was appalled that he truly didn't know. Beside me, Aaron was laughing at Eric's reaction. I had started my own company before the children entered middle school. There was no way we could afford their school fees. Life was tough. Plus, I was unwell and couldn't go out to work. That's when I decided to work from home, believing that the era of the internet was coming. I first attended a 3-month free computer class hosted by the city. There, I met an elderly man who would later become my business partner, Robert. He had been a banker dealing with investments. He came to learn the basics of computers, because he believed that transactions would mostly move online in the future. But at the time of joining, he was already quite knowledgeable about computers. He helped me with my problems and even taught me some tricks. He was like a father figure to me. As we got to know each other, we would chat, and Robert asked me one day, "Jenny, why did you decide to learn about computers?" Actually, I confided in Robert as if seeking life advice. I told him that I couldn't send the kids to the schools they hoped for without making money from home. That's why I came here. Robert crossed his arms after hearing this. Honestly, earning enough for tuition from home is. I know. But I thought it's better than doing nothing. Robert smiled warmly after hearing my words. "If you'd like, I can introduce you to my son. He's a systems engineer and could teach you much more than what's available here. He's busy, so he might not have much time, though." Really? I would love to learn everything I can. True to his word, Robert introduced me to his son. I learned a lot from him, and during our sessions, he suggested that rather than just working from home, I should start a company. I had no confidence at first. However, a company wanted to try using a system that was based on advice from Robert's son. From then on, it was a cycle of studying and working every day. Of course, I could do all this from home without neglecting my household duties. Then, Robert invested the initial capital, and I established the company as the president. We didn't have an office, and all employees worked from home. Most of them were housewives. We introduced a flex-time system to ensure that everyone could work comfortably without stress. This method of working from home with flex-time was beneficial not only for mothers with young children who couldn't leave the house, but also advantageous for the company, because it meant someone was working 24 hours due to different working hours. Gradually, the company grew, hiring more employees and improving performance. Those whose children were older could study the systems more thoroughly and grow into engineers. And now, I am the president of a company that employs 900 people worldwide. Thanks to this, my children could advance their education without any financial difficulties. I never told Eric to avoid hurting his pride, but I earned all the tuition money. It was less than 3 minutes after the receptionist made the call when the president of Eric's company came rushing over. He greeted me politely. Ignoring a flustered Eric, Aaron and I were led to a meeting room. My husband has been under your care. So I had been providing our company's system to you at a very low price. However, he is no longer related to me. I would like to return to the regular pricing. The president turned pale at my words. Currently, we offer it at 20% of the standard rate. We'll just return it to 100%. If you're unable to pay, we'll have to discontinue our transactions. I smiled as the president groaned. You were Eric's wife. I had no idea, and I appreciate your past support. However, it's a bit difficult to adjust immediately after the divorce. Could we possibly have some time to consider this? I never intended to bring this up so suddenly. But Eric has had an affair with your employee, Kelly, and discarded me like a used rag. Naturally, I cannot feel sympathy for the company. Where these two individuals who disrupted my life met. What? Are you saying those two are in a relationship? The president's face turned even paler. He probably never imagined that there was infidelity within his company. It seems he is shocked to learn that Eric, who had always played the role of a good father and husband, was involved. That being said, if you wish to continue doing business, I would kindly ask you to renew the contract at the regular price. The president, understanding my feelings, could say nothing. He simply slumped his shoulders. As Aaron and I left the meeting room, there was Kelly. I can't believe Jenny runs a company. And to think you kept it from me. Your best friend, that's harsh. There was Kelly, making a sarcastic remark. Aaron was visibly angry, but I stopped him. I'm sorry. I didn't think it was worth mentioning. Even so, to use Eric against me as a weapon for harassment. I never thought you were that kind of person. But as a president, you must be okay, financially now, right? I'm relieved. I would have felt terrible if my actions had caused you to be unhappy. Her insincere words sounded like mockery. But she was wrong. Feeling obligated to correct her, I said. I'm sorry, but I don't think I've lost anything. In fact, thank you for taking him off my hands. You don't have to put up a brave front. It's not a front. A husband who has a spending habit hardly contributes to household expenses. Looks down on others, treats his children as tools to show himself in a better light. Doesn't participate in parenting and doesn't provide for school fees. I was wondering if I had to stay with such a husband for the rest of my life. Kelly stood there with her mouth open. Aaron couldn't help but laugh. What? Who are you talking about? About Eric, of course. It seems he's been playing the role of a good husband and father outside. But it was me who paid for the children's college tuition. You better earn well for your baby's sake. Huh? I'm going to be a full-time housewife. Oh, is that so? It's unfortunate for the baby then. But I guess high school might be tough? Better start saving now. Kelly, unable to accept the truth about Eric, muttered in conflict and became flustered. Being pregnant, she probably wasn't emotionally stable. I felt sorry for confronting her with reality at such a time. But after all, she was the one who started the conflict, and I hadn't lied about anything. Well then, take care. I truly wish you happiness. I smiled warmly and left Kelly there, supported by Aaron as we left the company. My wish for her happiness contained neither lies nor sarcasm. I genuinely hoped that Kelly, my former best friend who so desperately wanted to be happy, would indeed find it. Whether she could find happiness with Eric, I didn't know. Eventually, the president apologized for any discomfort caused by his employee. No need for you, Mr. President, to apologize. It's not your fault, it's those two. But I no longer have a reason to offer discounts, so I simply proposed the regular price. The president responded, "You're right," and agreed to a new contract at the regular price. Although it may no longer concern you, Ms. Hansen. Eric Hansen has been given a pay cut for getting involved with a subordinate. He has a new family, but I hope he does not repeat the same mistake. The president informed me apologetically. I felt slightly relieved hearing about Eric's penalty. Despite his high salary, a pay cut would make life difficult. But my feelings of anger had vanished, replaced only by pity. Yes, I hope Mr. Hansen and Ms. Jones find happiness. The president smiled wryly in response. They have already been fighting. Kelly has returned to her parents' home and is on leave from work. Apparently, she's claiming she was tricked into a fraudulent marriage. Oh. It might just be her temporary anxiety due to pregnancy. I responded with a polite laugh. If so, that would be good, but whether they would find happiness together remained uncertain. I could easily imagine Kelly becoming a single mother and Eric becoming a poor, lonely old man. After that, I moved in with Stacy. Within a year, Stacy was engaged. I gifted her a duplex as a wedding present. And we started living together in the new house. With no need to think about Eric, I could focus more on my work. The company gradually began to generate significant profits. And I lived without financial worries, something that had once seemed impossible. Soon, I would become a grandmother. With more hope and happiness than fears for my retirement, I look forward to the future.